There is a man they call the human polar bear. They also call him an oddity. No one really knows why he swims. Perhaps to be alone, or maybe to prepare for the day that the sun melts the world. What does he know that others don't? Are there others that see the future as he sees it and want to help him change it? Maybe he is an oddity, but I'm sure he doesn't mind what you call him, as long as it's not ordinary. Because ordinary won't change the world.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful to be here today. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I want to take you today from here all the way to the North Pole. I want to take you from this nice warm room to one of the coldest places on this earth. And I want to take you from a very warm, safe environment to one of the most dangerous places on this earth. And just to put this all in perspective, I want to talk to you about swimming at the North Pole. The first swim at the North Pole, which I did last year. And just to give you an idea of the water temperatures, if you were to swim in your local indoor swimming pool, the temperature would be around about 27 degrees centigrade. If you swam across the English Channel, the water would be around about 18 degrees centigrade. The passengers who fell off the Titanic fell into water of just 5 degrees centigrade. Fresh water freezes at 0 degrees centigrade. And the water at the North Pole is minus 1.7. It's flipping freezing. It's flipping freezing. So why on earth would I go all the way to the North Pole to do a swim? Well, I've been swimming for 20 years, and I'm very fortunate to have swum in every ocean of the world. And I really have seen the oceans change. The biggest changes I've seen have been up in the Arctic Ocean. I have seen polar bears walk across very thin ice. I have seen glaciers retreat up mountainsides, and every year I go there, and I've been there for the last 7 years, I've seen less and less sea ice. This place is changing, and I wanted to do a swim which would shake the lapels of world leaders to get them to understand that what is happening up in the Arctic is going to affect each and every one of us, whether you be here, or whether you be in Britain, or in Australia, or South Africa, wherever you are in the world, the Arctic is going to affect you. Anyway, to do a swim like this is it's no easy swim. Take it from me. So I assembled a team around me of experts who could help me with this endeavor. And we went and trained for about a year together to really get it right. No human had ever swum in water like this before. It is freezing, freezing cold. A normal person, if they dived into that water, would be dead in a very short period of time. And after we did all this training, and we spent about a year together, we got on a ship and we sailed to the North Pole. I don't know if any of you have sailed across the Arctic Ocean before, but it is a most incredible place. You know, just to sail past polar bears and albatrosses and just walruses, it's just magical. And on the 4th day, we decided to do a test swim. And I had never swum in water of minus 1.7 degrees before. No human had. And we couldn't find that water temperature in our training. So anyway, we got off the ship and I got in the water and I just did a 5-minute test swim. That test swim changed my life forever. I've never had such a frightening experience. When I got out of the water, I took the goggles off my face and I looked down at my hands, and my fingers were like sausages. We are made of water, and when water freezes, it expands. And all the water in my hands, the cells in my hands had frozen, expanded, and burst. And it was like somebody had taken a sledgehammer and smashed my hands. And 2 days later, I had to get to the North Pole and do a 1-kilometer swim. And I'd just done 5 minutes, and the main swim was going to take me around about 20 minutes. And so I got back on the ship, and I got into a hot shower, and I remember standing there with my hands underneath the shower rose and trying to defrost my hands. And I realized at that moment that that dream of mine to do this swim, which had actually started when I was a little boy, because I had a very inspirational father who told me the great stories about the great British explorers of Captain Scott and Cook and these guys. The dream had really started there, that dream was going to go right down the pan. At the very best, I thought that I could lose my fingers, and at worst, I would die. And we carried on sailing for another 2 days. And the next morning, I woke up, and I could no longer feel my hands. And for a swimmer, to feel your hands is of the very essence of being able to swim. And my coach saw me at the front of the ship, and he came up to me, and he said, "Lewis, I need to talk to you. I want to give you 3 anchors, and I want you to remember these 3 anchors at all times. Because there are going to be times when you're going to doubt yourself. There are going to be times when you're going to think you're going to lose your hands. And there are going to be times when you think you're actually going to lose your life. But with these 3 anchors, none of that is going to happen. The first thing I want you to remember, Lewis, is that you come with a team here. And that team is represented by 10 different countries. And so I'm going to put a flag at every 100-meter mark along that swim. And so I'm going to start with the Norwegian flag, and then I'm going to have the Swedish flag, and then the Russian flag, and then the American flag, and so on and so forth until we get to the British flag at the end. And we're going to break this swim down, and I just want you to concentrate on all those people from those countries who have sacrificed so much for you to be here today and have inspired you so much. Just think about them. Don't think about anything else. The second anchor I want you to think about when you start doubting yourselves is to go all the way back to the beginning of your life and to turn around and to walk all the way to today and realize that you've done some big swims before. When you were a young boy, you swam from Robben Island to Cape Town, during the height of apartheid. You swam across the English Channel. You swam 200 kilometers down a Norwegian fjord and 350 kilometers down the Thames. You've swum far. You swam off Antarctica. Lewis, this swim may seem like a giant leap, but actually it's just another step in your career. And I want you to have the courage, Lewis, have the courage to take that step, because we're there with you. And we've also got to have courage, because it's not going to look good for us if you die here tomorrow. But you're not going to die, Lewis. We're going to look after you. But swim hard. And then the last thing I want you to do, Lewis, is I want you to walk all the way to the end of your life and ask yourself what you're doing here today. And it was very simple. I wanted to do a symbolic swim. I wanted to shake the lapels of those leaders who deny that climate change is happening, or even worse, who know that it's happening and are doing very little to try and tackle it. And so the next day we arrived at the North Pole, and it was just as scientists had predicted. There were massive open areas of water. And I went down to my cabin as my team put out all the flags. And I remember putting on my swimming costume and just thinking how naked I was. And my doctor came up to me, and he put a heart rate monitor on me and a rig that he could measure my core body temperature. And I remember him, his hand shaking as he'd put it on. And he'd never, ever shaken before. And I looked into his eyes, and I said to him, Tim, Tim, you look frightened. You are nowhere near as frightened as I am. So please, we've just got to be brave. We've just got to go out there and do it now. So we walked down the gangplank onto the ice, and I walked up to the water's edge, and I stood there, and I looked in the ice, and I looked into the water, and the water was completely black. There were big chunks of white ice there. The air temperature's below 0. I've got 4 polar bear guards on the horizons looking out and protecting me. It is the most frightening place I have ever been in my whole life. And I'm now going to show you a short video of what happened on that day.
We're just sailing out of harbour now, and it's at this stage when one can have a bit of a wobble mentally. Everything just looks so grey around here and looks so cold. Just seen our first polar bear. It was absolutely magical. A mother and a cub. Such a beautiful sight. And to think that in 30, 40 years they could become extinct. It's a very frightening, very, very frightening thought. We're finally at the North Pole. This is months and months and months of dreaming to get here. Years of training and planning and preparation, and in a couple of hours time I'm going to get in here and do my swim. It's all a little bit frightening, but and emotional. Amundsen, you ready?
Ready.
Ten seconds to swim! 10 seconds to swim!
Go for it! Get on! Go, 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 go!
goggles off.
Take the goggles off.
Take the goggles off.
Lewis, slowly, slowly. Lewis, wait.
We're right here for you, Lewis. We've got a towel.
Here you go, here.
Okay.
These are fluffies, let him just go. Let him just go.
Come, Liz. Come.
Okay, take the shoes. Quickly, take the shoes.
Well done, Lewis. You did it. You did it, Lewis. You did it. You did it, man. Well done, Lewis, you did it. You've done it. How on earth did you do that? Against the current, Tyler. You did it against the current.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end off by just saying this, that climate change is the biggest problem facing us. We may think otherwise during this credit crunch, but it's the biggest problem facing us. But we can solve it. We really can solve it. But the only way we can solve it is by a complete shift in our mindsets. A complete shift in our mindsets. There are people who believe that we cannot make the cuts. There are people who doubt that we can achieve this, but we can. We just need to break this beast down into manageable chunks. And we need to set out the map. We need to set out the flags. And each country, Great Britain, America, Russia, India, China, all of us have got to make cuts. Every single one of us, and we've got to make them now. And for those of us, when we in the middle of the night, when we think, is it really still possible? Well, then we should walk back to the beginning and realize just how far we have come. Just a few years ago, when I used to stand up and talk about climate change and talk about what was happening in the Arctic, people used to deny that climate change was happening. Look how far we have come. And then finally, when we still doubt ourselves, we should walk all the way to the end and ask ourselves a very basic question, and that is, what type of world do we want to leave our children and our grandchildren? And my answer, and I hope yours is the same, is that I want to leave this world to my children. I want to leave a beautiful world. I want to leave a safe world. And I want to lead a sustainable world. So please join me in pushing for this. Please push as hard as you can. Thank you very, very much.